There's no such thing as security. There's no such thing as stability. It's an illusion. And on top of that being an illusion, it's so restrictive to living. What does it mean to be secure and safe and stable? Like, it means that nothing's going to change. It means that you know exactly what's coming. What kind of life is that?
Today's guest is Saul. He's a local San Diego artist, singer, and songwriter. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you do what you do?
Myself, it's a long story. In short, I've kind of been all over the place. I was born in California, grew up in Israel with my mom, my brother, grandma, that side of the family. I moved back here when I was 16, moved around a lot, pretty much my whole life, honestly. Never really sat still in one spot. Went to school for a few different things, actually. Went to like 3 different universities because I kept transferring and changing majors and all that. Ended up studying electronic media, which is actually like audio production, stuff like that, which helps me with my music now. I learned a lot of tools to help me with the audio production, video, web, just all the things you need to know. And then I didn't touch that for like 6 years. I was working restaurants my whole school career, like even a little longer, for like 8 years to support myself. And I started doing fitness, which is my main source of income right now. And I finally got back to music a year ago. It's been about a year now since I stepped on stage for the first time and started doing open mics and performing. And all throughout last year, it just kind of grew and I kept pushing, and I released a single and another one and a third one, and I had a couple of solo shows, and I performed at a local venue, Soda Bar, which is, to me, was a big deal. You know, it's like where some legit artists perform. I've gone through a lot of changes the last 2 years, I think, getting to know myself and my place in the world and how everything kind of is, still figuring that out. And yeah, I think I was really pushing last year a lot, and that show at Soda Bar was in November, and I did like another open mic in December, and kind of stepped away from it for a little bit. Went traveling in Vietnam for a couple of weeks in January, and got back and kind of didn't feel like an artist for a little bit. Do you ever feel that when you just kind of forget who you've been for a little bit, and you have to just take time and reset? So that's where I've been, and now I feel like it's something new is cooking, and I'm gonna change direction a little bit, still within music. And now I'm just trying to figure out what that is right now.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Do you have any ideas what direction that might look like?
So I realized, like, I've been making rap music. You know, I mostly rap. I do some singing. It has kind of like almost like a pop-ish vibe to it. I don't know how to describe it exactly. It's not exactly like something else that other people are doing, I think. You've heard my music.
Yeah.
But I realized, like, my whole life I've really been more into soul and R&B kind of music. Like, that's what I always listen to. That's what I listen to most of the time. And that's the music I enjoy the most.
Yeah.
It's like, why am I not making music that I enjoy the most? Why? And I love rap music too, but it almost feels like it's not 100% who I am. So I'm trying to shift in that direction. I'm not going to be an R&B singer. You know, I can sing, but not like Miguel or one of those guys. But I want to do that and then combine that with the rap and just change the whole vibe a little bit.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get to just try things and then pivot. I feel like with my YouTube channel, I was just trying so many different things. And there's a lot of like stuff I put out that I feel really like cringe about. I'm just like, oh, this is so terrible. But I had to just do it so that I can see what it looked like and reevaluate if this is what's true to me, and then just pivot again. And I think we're gonna do that our entire lives.
Yeah, I mean, I've never really stayed with one thing, period, my whole life. And even if I did, within that, there's been a lot of changes. But yeah, I realized I think I took it a little too seriously last year, and I think my focus was more on what's gonna sound cool, what are people gonna like, like my first single that I released because I thought it's like a little more poppy and would appeal to a wider range of audience. But who cares? Like, I should make music for myself that I enjoy, that I connect with 100%. Not because I'm trying to make someone think that I'm cool or get someone's approval. It's kind of a recipe for disaster, because there's always going to be people who don't like your stuff. There's always going to be people who try to put you down even if they think your stuff is good. You know, they might be jealous. They might not want you to succeed because they're afraid that that's going to take away from their own success or their own life or whatever. So I think it's important to kind of shift more towards yourself and figure out what feels right to you. And like, man, like we're just starting this stuff, you know, like you're starting your podcast. I'm just starting my music. I started last year. I was thinking, all right, what's my style? Like, what's my look? How am I gonna market myself? It's like, I don't know. You know, if you look at some of the biggest artists, like Kendrick Lamar, for example, he's a rapper I really admire. My favorite album, his Good Kid, Mad City, which was released in 2012, like 11 years ago, right? And he's been super successful since then, but he started a lot before then too. And if I listen to older mixtapes of his, there's one called OD, I think, Overly Dedicated. It's not like on Spotify or any of those things, but it's out there.
Yeah.
It's not good. And this is like one of the top artists in the world. He's super successful. And he started, and it was kind of similar to the style that he does now. But even within his last few albums, it's always something new. It's always him trying to change the flavor a little bit. He's always doing what probably feels right to him, I'm assuming. I don't know him, and we're just getting started. So like, this is the best time to just mess around and try a bunch of different things and be okay with 90% of them being shit, if that's how it is, you know? So I'm just kind of like messing around right now, and I decided recently in the last couple of months that I'm gonna start making music, almost pretending as if no one's ever gonna listen to it.
Yeah.
And there's some kind of freedom in that, because if you don't care about someone else hearing it or judging it, then you're free to do whatever you want. And it can be cool, it can be bad, it can be whatever, but it's you, you know? And that way you discover more things.
That's so true. And I can think of times with this podcast when, like, in the very, very beginning, I'm just like, no, actually no one is listening. Like, I could say anything and no one's gonna hear this. And then there's like ebbs and flows of like, wait, but like now people are listening. And what are they gonna think about what I'm doing? But like, I come in and out of that, and I know what I want to do, and I know what lights me up and what makes me curious, and that's where I want to stick to. So like, even when those fears come to me, I'm able to like get back on track, you know?
More centered within yourself.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm so excited about this because I have another account, San Diego Shuffle Girl, and like, I love that, and I loved shuffling. That was like a time period in my life. But for the longest time, I was like, there's something else I want to do. Like, this isn't it. Like, I want to do something more fulfilling, something deeper that's more true to me. And I just love all things spirituality and like getting deep. I can go deep with anyone at any time, and I would enjoy it. So like, I started this project, and like, there are times where I'm like, I don't know who is gonna want to hear this, but I know that I love it. And like, when I'm editing the videos and re-listening to things, I get so excited. I'm like, this is so good, right?
That's the best.
But like, I don't have like a huge following right now. So like, I really resonate with what you're saying.
Yeah. If you think about it, what's the difference between you doing this and enjoying it because this is what you want, and no one listening or one person listening, and you doing this and 5 million people tuning in? Like, honestly, what's the difference? You're still here doing the same thing. You're still just talking to a person about what you're passionate about, and you're kind of like channeling that energy of yours in the direction you want it to. And that shouldn't, I mean, ideally, it shouldn't change regardless of how many people are listening.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so hard to stay focused on that. Even just, you know, going back to music, me singing or dancing or whatever in my apartment when I feel like no one's listening is just so much freer, and for that reason, like, better too than when I do it on stage in front of people and I'm worried about what they think. And then, I mean, and you get to a point on stage too where you don't care. You're just like, oh wait, I'm just doing my thing. Like, I don't care what they think. I'm just gonna have fun. And that's when the show gets good. You know, it's just kind of tuning in and listening to yourself and what feels right, and just keep doing it.
For sure. So you have put 3 singles out, right? As Saul. Your first one was Too Much Love.
Yeah.
What was that inspired by?
So the day I actually wrote it. So I'm gonna start with, I don't drink much. Like, I don't like getting drunk, but I was out with a couple of good friends of mine and just drank a little bit. And I was walking home, and my laptop was open on this beat from YouTube that this was like midnight. Like, I'm a personal trainer. I wake up at 6 a.m. I don't even stay up late. I was like, fuck it, I don't know. Just like hit play on that YouTube beat and started playing. And just the hook, like cause I got too much love to give. I just started singing it. You know, it just came to me. So I recorded it on my phone just so I have it. And the next day I wrote the verses and everything, and just put it together. It just felt right. So it does come from a spiritual place, because on the surface, too much love sounds like, I just want to go out and hook up with a bunch of girls, and like I'm not gonna be with one person and this and that. That's not what the song's about to me. If someone hears that and that's what it is to them, and that's how they connect with the song, that's cool too. Like I love that. To me, it's about recognizing that we're all kind of connected. We're all part of the same being, same society, same world, whatever it is you feel part of. And the thing that connects us is that love that we have for each other, and recognizing that as different as everybody is, that in essence, like we're all the same thing. And I remember that evening being out with my friends, we're out there drinking, and when you're out drinking, you're around people that like to drink, and they'll talk about things that I could care less about, and they get excited about stuff that, in my opinion, doesn't matter at all. Yeah. But I remember just sitting there and like looking at these people, and these not my friends, they're friends, and I'm just like, instead of looking at them on the surface as like these drunks who just live kind of a wasted life, I'm not saying their life is wasted, but like the things they do is just kind of very surface level. I kind of see them as like, it's kind of like a kid, like they're enjoying what they enjoy in life, and you can see that that's what feels good to them, and you can see that maybe they're not so awake to other things that may be more important or just a little deeper. So they're doing the best they can. They're living the best life that they can from their point of view. And when you see people for that, you can just love everybody, honestly. Because when you see a little kid playing with sand and eating it, like obviously you don't aspire to be eating sand, but you can see like, he doesn't know much. He's eating sand. He's having a great time. Like you have love for that kid, right? Yeah. You can 100% look at every single adult grown-up person in the whole world, doesn't matter where they're from, what they're doing, and see them with that same kind of perspective and have love for them for that. So I think that's at its core what inspired the hook that I wrote that same night. And then the next day the verses is more went into kind of the romantic part of it, where you can love somebody and just not have that attachment that comes out of fear of losing them. You can be in love with someone and enjoy it and experience it for what it is, the best, when you're not afraid of what's happening next. Where are we going from here? Yeah. Are you gonna leave me? Like, am I gonna lose you? Like, what's gonna happen? Like, you have zero control of any of that stuff. It doesn't matter. So being able to love without that need for holding on tight and getting super attached, that's what that song's about. Yeah. So it's kind of like two different levels to it. Yeah, I think that could be so powerful, to be able to love without attachment. And I think within our society, there is so much love, but it really is a lot of fear. What do you mean when you say that? Okay, there's two people in a relationship, and they're going through a really hard time, and they're scared that they're gonna break up. But they think that they don't want to break up because they're in love with each other, but really they don't want to break up because they're afraid of being alone, or like they're afraid of not experiencing life with this other person. So it's like, that's not really love, that's fear. Yeah, and then that creates a lot of bad stuff within the relationship. Yeah. It's kind of like counter to what you think you're trying to accomplish, right? Yeah, but really there's just so much unawareness. It's like, it's really deep stuff that not everyone's willing to go into. So, and this whole love without attachment thing, I draw that from Ram Dass. Okay. So that's actually what kind of started me on anything spiritual for me. Ram Dass? Ram Dass, yeah. Oh. So his book, Be Here Now, a friend of mine gave it to me, and I read it. And this was almost 3 years ago, I think. So I was in like a 5-year relationship with someone who's a great person, just not right for me. And ending that was a great thing for me. It kind of allowed me the freedom to explore and be who I am. But it was also a new chapter of like, holy shit, like what is life about? What am I doing now? And I remember I just got to a very low point of I was seeking fulfillment in different pleasures and constantly distracting myself. And I realized I wasn't really paying attention to myself at all, like who I am. Why do I feel the way I am? Why am I always moving my whole life? Why am I always running away from something when things are not to my liking? And that's when I wrote my last single, Dark Night of the Soul. The verses I wrote back then, even though it's the one I released only a few months ago.
Yeah.
So it ties into that. So it's kind of like I hit a very low point where I just felt like the entire weight of the world was crushing my head, and I didn't know what to do with myself, you know? And then I just kind of felt like I don't belong. And I've always felt that way. I've always felt like, you know, I was like an American kid growing up in Israel, and then I moved here and I was an Israeli kid who was in the US. It's like, I'm always like different from everybody else. There's always something that sets me apart. And I always, growing up, always wanted to belong, and I always wanted people to accept me. And then in recent years, I realized that I'm doing the opposite now, which is I'm trying to be so different from everybody else just to kind of prove like, yo, this is me, and you know, you want to be part of this, then you can follow me. I'm not trying to conform anymore.
Yeah.
But part of that was hitting that really low point, and then my friend gave me that book because she kind of recognized that that's what I'm going through because of something I said. And I started reading it, and he talks about just being in the present moment, be here now. And he tells his whole story about how he felt like he's living in an alien bodysuit and he doesn't belong. And, you know, if you summarize it, he basically realized that he's part of consciousness that's, you know, whatever the overarching thing that moves the universe, love, God, whatever. Part of that is just being present, you know, just not worrying about what's going to happen, not getting attached to anything, just living with this unconditional love for everything. Then he gets into like specific things of do this and do that, and I don't like rules like that. Like that's why I don't really mess with religion or anything like that, because I don't think there's a certain way that anyone needs to behave or be. As long as you're being a kind person and you treat others with respect and love, it's fine. Don't tell me what to eat. Don't tell me that I need to rub a bead necklace every 20 minutes. Don't tell me what crystal I need. Like, if that works for you, that's amazing. But I just don't like that kind of limited perspective on being. So that's that unattached love. It comes from Ram Dass. And since then, I've read a lot of different books. I've been looking into different philosophers and a lot of like well-known figures in spirituality like Deepak Chopra and Alan Watts and a lot of other ones, and reading into different religions. And you kind of realize they're all saying the same thing. Yeah. You know, it's all really about there's something driving this reality that we don't necessarily know, we're not aware of, or we're aware of, but we can't really perceive from where we're at. But you can almost feel it, you know, and it's something you connect to through meditation, through, I think, following your passion, through creating things, whether it's a podcast, music, art. And at its core, it's just about kind of connecting to that and being a good person, being kind to other people, and just living your life, doing, you know, like just doing whatever, because there's no point to anything, really. There's not any specific inherent meaning in anything we do in life. You just attach meaning to it. Yeah, we create meaning. Yeah, you create meaning and said attach meaning. But see, like, again, that's that attachment. If you get attached, you like create some kind of meaning and then you attach it and then you limit yourself within that. Maybe that goes back to us trying to create a certain lane for our creations, our podcasts, or our music. And you're like, oh, this is it. Yeah. And that restricts you from going another direction. So. For sure. But I also trust that, so like right now I am so focused on video podcasts and I could be preventing myself from going in another direction. But like, I know that if I'm meant to go in another direction, something's gonna happen that will shift me, you know? Like, whatever it may be, it's always shifted if it's meant to be. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. For sure. Yeah, it's just kind of following your passion, you know, following what your heart tells you. Yeah. But it's, I think it just comes with not falling into the trap of like, oh, this was my passion a year ago and I've put so much time into this and so much effort. And even though I don't feel like I should go down this route anymore, like, but what about all the work I already put in? Even though your heart's telling you like, no, go this way now. Like maybe all of the work that you put in was everything you needed to experience to completely do something different. But again, you get attached to whatever meaning you created for this podcast route and you restrict yourself from being open to other things.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like we change over time. I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And at my core, I mean, thinking about it, I wanted to be a famous singer when I was like 10, 12 years old. But it's not something I was focused on for all this time. And if it's not what I do in the future, that's fine too. But that's why I'm trying to take a step back and realize what feels right. Before the interview started, you said you're a doer. You like to do a lot.
Yeah, I love doing.
And it gives us a sense of purpose and a sense of fulfillment when we're doing stuff. When we're not doing stuff, it's kind of like, I feel like we're wasting time.
Yeah.
You know, but are you? We need rest.
Yeah, rest is so important.
Yeah, and that's something I struggle with because these periods, even last year when I was doing a lot of music, I did have some periods here and there where I didn't do much or where I just felt like I need to take a little break. And I did, but the whole time I was on that break, I remember kind of beating myself up about it, you know, feeling bad about why am I not being productive? Why am I being lazy? Why am I not doing anything? And it's like, is that really how things are? Like, do we really need to do all the time? Like, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Nature doesn't do all the time. You know, trees shed their leaves for a few months of the year. Bears go and hibernate for a few months.
Yeah.
You know, things have their cycles and they start and they go. And, you know, you'll have a whole forest created over hundreds or thousands of years. And then a natural fire takes it down in a couple of days. And over time, it's going to decompose and then a new forest is going to come. It's, you know, like we see it as, oh my God, this destruction and all this beauty is gone, but it's just part of the process. You know, for new life to come, there has to be death. It's just we weren't always here. We've been around like a few decades of that. And I think it's okay. It's okay to have time where you just don't do anything, you know, and just do whatever your body needs to keep going and feel good. And I don't mean feel good in the sense of like go eat unhealthy foods because they're delicious and go do all these things and drugs and all that. It's like, no, just do the things that are nourishing to you. And if the drugs and all that stuff is nourishing to you, cool, but maybe in moderation. It's great to do, and I feel great when I do as well. I love creating and I love being productive. It's important to recognize the rest that your body needs and your mental state and your head and your soul needs that rest. But we live in a society that values growth. If you're not growing, if you're not making more money than you did last year, if you're not stronger, if you're not more influential than you were a few months ago, then you're failing. And it's unhealthy. Like, it's not natural. We're not machines. We're human beings. You know, we're just here to exist, to just be. We're not human doings. Like, we're not constantly supposed to be doing stuff.
Yeah.
It's really challenging. It's kind of like going against what most people around you are constantly making you feel like you should be doing. But at the end of the day, I think if you're staying true to yourself and your passions, and it doesn't matter what other people think so much, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when it comes down to it, you're with yourself. Like, I'm with myself all day, every day. So it's like, as long as I'm happy with who I am and what I'm doing, that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important to do what makes you feel good. If you're going based on society standards and you're going for the job that makes you the most money, but you're miserable because you're just working every hour of your waking day away, then what's the point? It could all go away tomorrow.
Yeah.
You never know. Like, we're not guaranteed anything. You don't know if there's a future or what the future is, so as well enjoy now. And like, I'm not saying then just don't do anything. Obviously, you gotta set yourself up for a good future if it comes, right? But I think it's about that balance. To make money, I'm a personal trainer. And I just saw this, someone posted it somewhere, I don't remember where, but he said muscles don't grow while you're working on them. Like your legs don't get stronger during your set of squats. They get stronger through the recovery period, through the next following days. Right? Like, what you're doing when you're lifting weights, when you're exercising, is you're actually breaking down your muscle. You're creating micro tears and putting a lot of stress on your body, which your body needs if it's going to continue to function and grow and get stronger. The most important part after that is getting the proper rest and recovery. So taking time to not do squats again, taking time to stretch and mobilize and give your body the proper nutrition it needs. That's when the muscle actually does the healing and grows and gets stronger. And then it's ready for that next cycle of, all right, let's break you down again and get stronger again.
That's pretty cool. It makes me think of like, I could use what I do as an example. Like when I'm sitting there editing videos and I'm like, that's like when I'm like breaking down the muscle. I'm putting in the work and the effort. And then say I don't edit videos for 2 or 3 days. That's like now the rest time where the universe starts to like align synchronicities and things that are meant to happen. I don't know, I just thought that was really cool how I could like take that and relate it to working on a creative project. And I think the reason that I appreciate this so much is because, like you said about being productive, like I'll be so productive one day, and at my bedtime, I'm like, oh, today was such a good day, I was so productive. And then the next day it's like, okay, like I need to rest. And like I won't do as much as I did the day before. And then I struggle at bed. And I'm like, damn, like I didn't do that much today. And I could have showed up differently and blah, 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 blah. So just to really, really know and understand how important the rest and recovery time is.
It's also that rest, I mean, in terms of creative process, it gives you perspective.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like taking a step back. Because when you get so involved in a project and you're right there with it.
Yeah.
You know, and you're seeing the project for what it is from your perspective at that point in time. And you're doing whatever you can. And sometimes you get stuck, right? You're like, shit, what do I do with this now?
Yeah.
You know, so sometimes you do need that time away. It kind of like recalibrates your head, your way of seeing things, and you come back. And all of a sudden you notice something you didn't see before. So you go do something completely unrelated. You just enjoy your life. You go on a hike, you hang out with friends, have a glass of wine somewhere, and just out of nowhere, like this idea comes like, oh my God, this would be so good for that one video that I was stuck on 2 days ago. But that wouldn't have come if you forced yourself to sit with that video for the next 2 days and you just be in front of the computer getting frustrated.
Yeah.
You know, so it's part of the process, and I think it's hard to recognize that not doing is a big part of doing.
Yeah.
You know, with music too. I do my own audio engineering and production. When you sit with a song, and this like professional audio engineers will tell you that too, you can work on a song for a while, and sometimes you have to take a break, step away from it, go actually listen to some other music. Kind of like gives your ears a break. It refreshes your perspective on it, because you get so stuck in something that you stop hearing what you're actually working on. Like it sounds like maybe something's different in your head, but what it actually sounds like is not the same. So having that time away from it and coming back lets you actually be with the song and see it for what it is, and maybe be able to bring something different into it that'll make it better. Song, podcast, art, whatever, your business.
Yeah, there's been so many times at my accounting job where I'm working on something and I start to get annoyed and frustrated, and then I walk away, and when I come back, I'm like, wait a second, this is actually really easy, and it'll take me a minute to do. So it's like being in that perspective of frustration and just like wanting something to be done already is like, that's the thing that's holding you back from creating that masterpiece or whatever, finishing the project.
Yeah, it's us getting locked into a certain track and not being able to shift an inch in any direction, you know? So taking a step back does help.
And then I also think so much inspiration comes from taking a step back. Like how you went through a dark night of the soul, like you probably weren't creating in that time period or like doing anything, but such beauty came from it. Like a whole entire song that you created came from that time period.
Yeah.
And I think that's really beautiful when we can take dark moments, or we can take things that people might perceive as negative and turn that into something beautiful and creative.
Yeah, that's art.
Yeah.
It's taking life for what it is.
Yeah.
You know, it's the human experience. It's an experience. It's just us being here. It's existing, you know, like taking in everything there is. I mean, I can't tell you for a fact that any of the spiritual stuff, knowledge that I have is true, because we can't possibly fully experience that stuff. But if it is true, and that's what it is, and you know, like we're the soul that's connected to source or God or whatever, and we've been put here in human form to experience things as a human, then like freaking experience it, you know, like if you're a human, you're capable of experiencing so many different emotions, so many different things, and we're so afraid to experience the negative ones, the ones that we labeled as not good, you know, but that's part of the experience. It's beautiful. It's what, and I say that now, you know, when I'm in those negative experiences, it's painful and it sucks. But it's those negative experiences that make the positive ones so much more beautiful. Yeah. And yeah, taking from that and kind of repurposing that into something beautiful. It's kind of like animals dying in nature, like, you know, like manure on the ground, helping flowers bloom, you know? And that's actually a line of one of my songs is, even flowers need some shit to bloom. And it's true, like you can't have beauty without the ugliness. Yeah. So in a sense, that makes the ugliness beautiful too, you know? And these things, they just happen. They take time, and it takes being patient and kind of seeing things at their core, their essence, kind of like me seeing those drunk dudes as like little kids playing in the sand, and it's not two grown men just drinking beer, you know? It's like you kind of appreciate something at its essence, at its core for what it is. It's a beautiful experience. And let it be what it is, and you never know when it's going to come back and turn to something else. You know, that Dark Night of the Soul I wrote 2-3 years ago, so I had the rap verses for it, and I didn't create the music behind it. Like I produced the actual instrumental track 2 years after I wrote that, and then after that, a couple months after that, I thought of the hook, the singing part. You know, so this song has been in the works for 2.5 years before it became the song that it is. And then the artwork for it, I didn't know what I was gonna do, and I had this whole idea, and I did a little like photo shoot with myself in my apartment, and it didn't look right, and I just kind of let it go and went and continued on with my life. And driving home one day, I was just like, oh shit, I have this cool idea. Yeah. And then I created the cover art for it. I was like, I'm gonna sit in my living room and look all like down and depressed, and there's this light that I have that someone gave me and put it behind me. It's gonna look like it's gonna be crazy. Yeah. And I did it, and you know, it's like that photo shoot that I did not use, took me an hour or two to do, and a lot of frustration and a lot of like, oh, this looks like shit. I'm not gonna use it. Yeah. And this photo idea came to me on the way home, and it took me about 5 minutes to put together, and it's way better, and it feels right. Wow, yeah. You know, it's giving that, whatever you're working on, that space to breathe, and then things work out. It's cool when we don't force it, when we just let it be, things just happen to work out. What's been something that's really fulfilling during your music career? So the first single, I sent off to an audio engineer to finish for me, so I purchased the beat from someone, so I didn't create the instrumental for that. I found it online, that's what inspired it, so I just stuck with that. I wrote it, I did all that work, I recorded it at home, and then I sent it off to the producer, and when it came back, it's kind of like you let go of control of something. And I got it back, and at first I didn't like how it sounded, because we had like a miscommunication about what I was looking for. I told him, he fixed it, he sent it back again, I listened to it, and it sounded like, you know, it's a professional song. It's like, this is something I've been wanting to create for years, and I never have. And like, I heard the song, and I started tearing up. You know, like I created this. I had a vision, and I wanted to bring something into the world, and actually did it. And it's amazing, and it's beyond whatever I thought it could be. And I'm sure I'm going to listen to the song in 5 years and be like, this is shit. But when I heard it the first time, it was like, it made me emotional. Yeah. And it's that moment. And this can be whether it's a finished product or whether it's even just one step of the song, you know? It's that moment of less thinking and more just kind of being with it. And like all of a sudden this hook comes to your head and you start singing it, or like I write down a few words and I'm like, oh wow, this is cool. it's just kind of bringing something new into the world, I think, is very fulfilling in creating. And then the next level is having this thing that came out of my experience, and that it almost feels like a collaboration between me and the universe, because I'll look at things that I wrote, whether it's yesterday or years ago, and I'm like, I wrote this? Like, it doesn't fully feel like I created this myself, you know? And then having this thing be exposed to other people and having them actually like it and connect with it. And it's more than just the approval of someone like something you made. It's you know, it touched them, you know, on an emotional level. And I think that's beautiful, and that's what makes it worth it. It's kind of why I want to make music. I want it to be, I mean, obviously it's something I enjoy and love doing, and I'd much rather be a musician than whatever other job can make me money and be successful. But I think there's something special about it to a lot of people. Like, to me, music has been a driving force, always been something that's been there in my entire life, whether I'm happy, sad, excited, depressed, whatever. There's always been music, you know, from other artists. And if I can provide that to other people and take my experience and help someone maybe see something in a different way, or maybe help them get through a rough day, or maybe make their happy day a little bit happier, that's beautiful. And it gives me a sense of, you know, I'm taking good care of the time that I was given in this life. And then it's hard when I feel like I'm not doing that.
What's something that's been really challenging, and what did you learn from it?
A lot of things have been challenging. Man, going on stage, terrifying.
Yeah.
You know, especially the first few times. You're just thinking, like, what do I do with my body? What do I do with my arms? Do I sound good? What are they thinking? It's just kind of scary. It's been challenging letting go of that, and letting go of the overanalyzing thinking mind, and just kind of being and enjoying. It's been one big challenge. Another challenge that we talked about is having those times where I'm not creative. I haven't written something in months, and, you know, like, I feel like I'm not doing anything. That's challenging. Another thing that's challenging is having a vision and thinking, like, oh, this sounds so good. Like, I'm gonna record this, and I kind of have a feeling for what it's gonna sound like and the vibe I'm going for. And all right, I spend 2 hours on the computer. I'll, like, record, put together a beat, record a little bit of vocals, come back to it, and it just doesn't sound right. You know, so having that vision and having it being very disconnected from what you're actually creating in reality is a challenge. And sometimes you got to step away from that too. And not having something be perfect is also challenging. My whole life, no matter what I've done, I've always strived to be maybe not the best, but very good, at least. And when you make art, it's like, it's art. It's not gonna be perfect. And I don't think anything in life can really be perfect. It can be close. But letting go that need for, this has to sound amazing, and this has to be the most perfect thing, and I cannot have one thing be wrong with it, because you'll be stuck working on one single project for years.
Yeah.
Because you can spend hours and hours and it looks good, and then you come back the next day and you're like, oh, actually I can change this and that, and then it's just endless. So at some point you just got to let go. It's got to be like, this is it, I created it, and I'm going to release it, and that's it. That's also a big challenge. Yeah,
I've experienced that so much with video editing, of just wanting to be perfect, or even just wanting to be better than I am. Like, it doesn't need to be perfect, but like, there's so many times where I just feel like I suck. So what I do is I just do the best I can in that moment, and then I let it go, and I'm like, next time I'm just gonna do a little better, and I'm gonna do a little better, and continue on that, and eventually I'll get to a point where, or maybe I'll never get to a point where I'm like fully satisfied, you know? But like, to just be a little bit better each time, I feel like is enough for me. So that's how I try to approach it, but there's definitely so much where I'm like, oh, I could have did that so much better.
Yeah.
But then it's also like, it's just me. Like, I'm the only one doing this, and I come from accounting and finance, and I don't know anything about lighting or like audio or anything about anything or video editing. So like, I have to be kind and patient with myself too.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And it's that you said, next time I'll do better, and that's really important too.
Yeah.
You know, because whatever we do, like any day now, any project is a stepping stone in getting better and creating better. And no, I don't think we'll ever, as creators,
Yeah.
be 100% like, oh, this is perfect. This is a masterpiece. And you know what? Maybe you might feel that way one day about something, and then the next day you won't feel that way.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, I've had this experience. A couple of my songs, I don't think they're perfect. I think there's probably a lot that can be done better. Singing could be better, production can be better. There's always little things. And some days I listen to them and I hear those things that they're lacking or that could be improved. And some days I'll listen to them and be like, wow, I made this. Like, this is amazing. This is actually good. And it's just, you know, there's so many different factors. Like, we're such fickle, like, beings, you know, we feel different every day. The weather's different. You woke up feeling one way or another way, and just you never perceive things in a consistent way. Mm-hmm. You know, think of your favorite food in the world. Something that's just like freaking delicious. Your mouth is watering just thinking about it. You could have it 30 days in a row and love it, and then like on day 31, it's like, oh, this sucks. And it's like nothing changed. It's the exact same food. You change a little bit, and maybe a month later you taste it again. It's the most delicious thing in the world. It's like things change to us, you know, whether they're the same or not. So I think in terms of being a creator and making things, you just gotta let go. You just gotta be okay. You just gotta do your best and let go, and there's gonna be more, you know? You're always gonna be able to create more.
Yeah. Referring to everything you just said about perceiving, that's kind of what this whole channel is about, perspective switch, because I realized that in every perspective, you experience the same thing differently because you're just in a different perspective. That may be the most mind-blowing thing that I've experienced in my life, is being able and allowing my perspective to switch, which allows the way that I feel change, or it allows the way that I see someone, it just changes. Like one day I'm like, oh, like I don't really care about that person. And then the next day I'm like, whoa, like that person's fucking amazing. I love them.
Yeah.
And it's just been so mind-blowing to me. So like what I'm doing is like gathering all these different perspectives from people, and I'm just kind of creating a library and offering different perspectives to my listeners.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that.
Yeah.
That's what makes life more interesting. It's like that constant change. If everything was always the same, what's the point?
And it can happen in an instant.
Yeah.
Like your perspective can change in a second, and then your whole experience can just completely shift.
I scroll on TikTok sometimes, unfortunately. But this one guy was interviewing someone else, like, are you the smartest person in the world? And the guy responds, he's like, no, I don't think so. I mean, he's like, don't get me wrong, but I'm probably in the top 1% of most intellectual people. But he's talking about what makes him smart. It's the fact that he has the ability to take in whatever data, information he's being presented with, no matter what it is, and create new frameworks of seeing it. And that's what makes him intelligent, is he's not locked into a certain way of thinking or a certain perspective. It's his ability to change and shift perspective and see things from different angles. That's what makes him smart. And I saw this today.
Oh, wow.
You know, and it's...
Wait, send it to me. I want to...
It's long
It's gone.
gone.
Yeah,
it's
it's
long
just
gone.
like
I might
one
be
of
able
the-
to find it, but no, it was really cool to think about it. And that it's the same thing with just perspective and living, and it makes life beautiful.
Yeah.
If everything was always the same, it'd be so boring.
It would get boring.
Yeah. But if you think about it, I mean, most people live with that as a goal. That
Just the steady, same perspective.
Yeah, and they call it security. They call it stability.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't like talking about the pandemic because it's like, it's annoying to me, but that might piss people off, but it's fine. But it's like this whole word that they kept using, uncertainty. It's like, they say like it's such a bad thing, uncertainty. Like, what the fuck is certain in life? Excuse my language, but like nothing is certain. Like there's no such thing as security. There's no such thing as stability. It's an illusion. And on top of that being an illusion, it's so restrictive to living. What does it mean to be secure and safe and stable? Like, it means that nothing's going to change. It means that you know exactly what's coming. Like, what kind of life is that? Like, I wouldn't want to live that life. So I think you gotta be okay to let go of that. You gotta do whatever you can that's your best in that moment, or even if it's not your best, whatever you feel drawn or just feel right to do. Again, with the caveat of like you're not harming other people, you're being kind and having other people's welfare in mind as well, and remaining unattached from any potential outcome. So doesn't that make life a lot better when, like, I was thinking about this today or yesterday, I'm like, you know, like I go around, I'm nice to people. Usually if I'm not nice to someone, I'm probably going through something and I really didn't mean to, and I hope I'm not that way. I'm nice to people and I'll smile at everybody as much as I can, and I hope to be a nice little positive touch in someone's day, whether it's a stranger I cross on the street or a friend or family, whatever. They don't always smile back. They're not always nice back. Sometimes they're mean. But if I was being nice to them with the expectation or the attachment to a certain result of them being nice to me in return, I think that takes away from me being nice to them in the first place. Because like what am I expecting something? Like is this a conditional kind of love or kindness I'm giving to people, or is it just a way of being that I decided to be because it's what I believe is right, I feel is right? And if I choose that route, that makes my life so much better. Because if you're not hung up on people being nice back to you, you're always going to keep being nice. You're always going to be happy as long as you know, like at least peaceful within yourself about who you are. If you need people to be nice back, and if you need people to accept you and love you and like what you do and all that, you're always going to be disappointed. Because maybe 99 out of 100 people will be nice to you, and then this one guy is going to be so nasty. And it's going to ruin your whole day. It can ruin your whole week. Why? Because you're like making up stories now about why he's nasty to you, and all your stories have to do with who? Me. Yeah. It's like, oh, well, maybe I wasn't nice enough, or maybe this or that. When in reality, maybe their life is just really hard and they don't know any better. Their parents beat them growing up, and that's how they think they should behave towards other people. There's so much that has gone on in this other person's 10, 15, 40, 60 years of life before that one single moment that you ran into them, that you have zero control of, and has absolutely nothing to do with you, but it has to do with how they reacted to their interaction with you. So recognizing that and being okay with things being the way they are and not being the way you want them to be gives you so much freedom and keeps you in a happier place. You know, it gives you this very internal, like just very grounding feeling of peace on the inside. Yeah. That carries you on. Yeah. One of my current biggest challenges that I'm realizing that I think I've had my entire life is I make up a lot of stories about what other people think of me, and they are like 100% made up. And with like the majority of the people in my life, I always think there's like something wrong or they don't like me. I'm realizing that these stories, they're not about them. Like they're actually about me. Like I've created the story because I believe something about myself. At least this is my current perspective of like what's happening, and like why do I think there's an issue with everyone? And like it's always they have an issue with me. That's how I see things too, you know? It's just you live life from your perspective. You always will. Yeah. Even if your perspective shifts, it's still you. You're still the one seeing things through your eyes, hearing things through your ears, and processing with your own mind and thoughts. I think it's a matter of accepting that, you know, like just letting things be the way they are. It's hard. It's really hard. Like even with that knowledge, I think whether it's just the way humans are, the way we've been conditioned growing up, because we've been around for a little while, we take things and we treat them a certain way. Like we treat them as, oh, this person is this and that because I did this and that and whatever. Yeah. It's just how we've always been. And it's hard to let go of that. Yeah. But there's so much freedom with letting go of it. you know, because no,
Truly.
it's just your story, really. That's all it is.
Truly.
How many times has someone maybe not responded to a text or said something or this, and you spent hours and hours freaking out and like getting, like, I'll get nauseous straight up. If I think someone's mad at me, sometimes I'll get sick. And then they're like, oh, hey, sorry, I was just doing this or whatever. So, and then it all goes away in a second. And like, you just wasted hours of your life in a very poor condition because of a story you created.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, if they were pissed at you and what made you nauseous was actually true, so what? So what? Like, do I need to waste hours, days, weeks of my life being miserable because another person's not happy with how I am? Mm-hmm. No.
Yeah.
You know, like, I think if you're living in a kind of way that's very harmful to other people and you know it and you do it consciously, and you know, because you're trying to get more money, or you're trying to get more power, more fame, or whatever it is, like, that you value, and you do things at other people's expenses, then yeah, like, maybe you should kind of wake up to that and change your ways.
Yeah.
But if you're just living your life, you know, you're being a good person, you're treating people with kindness to the best of your ability, and you genuinely don't wish any harm on anybody, why would someone else's opinion, why should that ruin your day? Why should that make you feel any less of a person? You know, like, I go about my day, and recently I feel like I've been withdrawing a little bit from my friends and from other people in general, because I'm just kind of trying to figure out, like, why am I here? What am I doing in this existence on this planet? Like, my life is great, you know, I have everything I need. I have loving friends, I have loving family, I have love in my life. I live in a beautiful place, you know, but sometimes I'm like, oh, what's the point of all this? What am I doing here? So I'm taking time to kind of sit with that and see where it takes me, and see how it goes into my art, and how it's going to affect my music, and how I can develop skills that will help me down the road with doing what I want to do. You know, I'm realizing, like, I was very, very social last year. I was constantly always hanging out with friends, trying to keep up with this group and this person, that person, show love to everybody, support everybody. And I just don't have that energy right now. I'm directing that towards another direction, and probably some of my friends are like, yo, what's up with this guy? Like, does he not like me anymore? Or like, why is he like, oh, he's not showing me any attention, what a dick, or whatever. It's like, but I'm not going to be upset about that, because that's not what's going on. I'm just doing what I can with the energy that I currently have. Mm-hmm. And if these people are truly my friends, or they truly care about me, then they can see that, or they can ask me, and I'll tell them, because you want to know something, ask me, I'll tell you. I'm always going to tell you 100%.